My name is Andrew Hastings. I haven't met all of you in this room, but most of you are familiar. So, couple things to start off. I was thinking about just with a testimony. It's like, well, this is my life. This is where I've come from. This is where I'm going. This is how God's worked through my life. And one of those things, just to start off, in the vein of a very much a John Rasmussen story, how I was named, my namesake. I have two great Uncle Andrews. One on my mom's side is the one I knew about, and he was the one that was amazing. My mom loved him. She wanted to name my oldest brother Andrew. My dad said no. She wanted to name my second oldest brother Andrew. My dad said no. Well, he kept saying no because my Uncle Andrew, on my dad's side, mysteriously disappeared off of his fishing boat in the harbor, and nobody knows where he went. But he probably, so that's the thing. It's like in the fishing. So that's my insane namesake. Great Uncle Andrew on one side, awesome, incredible rancher, super kind. Great uncle on the other side was a drunk fisherman. So I didn't know about him until I was about 20, so they kept that one secret. And then the other thing, if you guys don't know, a lot of you don't know, I am related to the Arnolds. I am directly, Barry and Vicky are my aunt and uncle. A lot of people find that surprising because, me and Blake have been introduced to each other probably 20 times. We'll be talking to each other. People will be like, have you guys ever met? We're like, yeah. It's amazing because the family resemblance is astonishing. It's like looking in the mirror when I'm looking at Blake. So I don't know why you guys don't get it. Andrew Hastings, Blake Arnold. So it's all there. It's all in the name. So yeah, so that's where when Cornerstone started, my family came over. We were early. We were first meetings. My parents were there for the meetings. My dad and my mom were super involved in those early years. And I was a born in the pew kid, like church family. Like we went to church, we served. I was very proud of that. I served a ton. There was a stretch when I was in high school, and literally every night of the week I was either serving at junior high or leading worship or, constantly giving of time, and that came from my family's example. So, come to when I was about 20, I go to Ecola Bible School, I leave home, go to Cannon Beach for a year, I come back, my parents don't go to church anymore. And there's an aspect of it, it has to do with my mom, her upbringing, very strict Baptist parents. She didn't connect the dots that the way that her parents treated her compared to the way that they lived out, that became a big struggle, and it became really hard to attend church. And that's a shocker when you're a young adult. Like, this is my initial foundation. This is who I am, very much. Like, I had already started to make that shift of figuring out my faith. It wasn't built on my parents, but it's part of it. And so for my dad, he was to support and serve his wife. He stepped away too. Move along in that, so that's something that you have to deal with. You have to think through that. How is this a part of it? And even now, my mom's gotten to the point where she claims she's an atheist. So, and along with one brother, I have four, there's six of us. I have three older brothers. One's a devout atheist now. One's he's a Christian, but he's not in the same vein. if that makes sense. So we're not swimming in the same stream. And then my mom's an atheist. My dad is supporting her as best he can to be a good husband. And what does that mean? How do you live that life? I don't know. So it creates these choices that you have to make. What is my foundation built on? Well, if it was built on my parents, I wouldn't be here right now. And that leads to a very big point in my life, was when Shepherd was born. You've seen him jumping off the walls. He ended up getting sick yesterday, so they're not here this morning, but he tried to get born at like 26 weeks. So my wife, Leah, when she was pregnant, she got to 26 weeks. He tries to come out. We say no. They're literally like keeping her inverted to hold him in. Like we were using gravity. For real. But he was a preemie. He was born at 30 weeks. So we had a 5-week NICU stay. And in that season, I had to make a choice. I had to decide, do I continue with this? Does this work? Does this faith that we have, is this a real thing? Does it actually work, or do I shelve it? And I had to make that choice in that moment of, I think this works. I know the head knowledge, but the heart of it doesn't always necessarily connect. And so to be a strong support for my wife, I go, if everything's even if it's not okay in this situation when Shepherd's 3 pounds and we have a 10% chance that he won't make it through this, even if the worst case happens, it will still be okay. I said it, I didn't really believe it, but I was like, you need to hear this right now. But that was there. That wasn't necessarily, that's a situation where I don't think it was necessarily me saying that. I think that was the Spirit working in that environment, in that situation. And I've had this thought where I go, well, I'm going to lean into it. Because if it breaks, it breaks. But I don't think it's going to. I don't think it will, because it's been proven to me in enough situations. I've seen actual, real, legit miracles happen through prayer where you're like, oh, the tumor's gone. Like, how on earth did that happen? It's like, oh, prayer. Prayer is the only thing that can make it work. And so, as I was thinking about this testimony of thinking about just a small portion of my life, of different mile markers, thinking about what Dan's been talking about is Jesus calls us. I know I've been called, but I have to choose regularly to follow after him. I have to choose to lean into the faith, because it's really hard when your family decides to go a different direction, and you grew up in a Christian family, and now I am a part of a non-Christian family. That's not a normal experience that I figured out. I'm like, oh, not many people. Skylar has the opposite. Most people have the opposite of, how do you evangelize your mom that knows the Bible better than you do? If you've ever seen her Bible, it's like crazy how well she's studied. She knows it. So that's where I'm living in, what I'm living in, and it really has led me to, it makes me lean on prayer. I don't know what the future has. My mom's shifted from one perspective to another perspective, back to another perspective. I mean, I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh and Dr. Laura every day because that's what she listened to. now she hates those people. So it's like, I'm a living roller coaster ride. But yeah, so actively choosing, leaning into prayer, that's what I find getting through the day. That's the way that it works, because seasons of life go and come, and 20 years ago, I would have never guessed that this is where my family would be at. So maybe that's more of my family's testimony than necessarily mine, but it's, yeah, that's, I guess the piece that I would leave with is the active part of our faith is huge, that daily choice to continually follow after him, because the world throws curveballs, and it's so easy to get confused by them. So, but yeah, that's me for right now.